All right, I think we're getting going here. Give a couple minutes and get everything going here. Good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody on here. We'll give a couple minutes here and get everybody on and dialed in here. We'll be tying some bait fish tonight. Good evening. All right, looks like we've got some people kind of trolling in here or trailing in here a little bit. So we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Chris Krueger. I'm part of the Whiting Farms Pro team, based out of Colorado and in Fort Collins, running Rocky Mountain Fly Design. Um, Proud to be a member of Whiting Farms Pro team and tie with the best tires and best hackles in the whole business. So looking forward to tying tonight. We're going to be doing some bait fish tonight. Made for mostly warm water species, but really easily dialed into cold water species. Just we have bait fish in all of our waters that come in a variety of different colors and shapes and sizes. And what I try to do with all of my boxes is really dial in my patterns to be able to be sized up, sized down, change colors, match whatever the forage is that I am going after, to really make sure that I am capitalizing on what's in the water and what these fish are going to be eating. So we'll start off with a couple patterns that are really must-haves in my box that I love to throw. Especially when these fish are busting bait balls along the shallows, or if you see in little fingerlings that are in the shallows of the rivers or the lakes that we're fishing. This is called the silver streaker, and this is a great just general all around bait fish. Really simple to tie, really easy to fill some boxes up and make sure that you're set and ready to go out on the water. But is one of my favorite patterns for just when bass are crashing on bait balls or shads or any type of minnow just in the shallows or in some smaller water. This is a size 4. I love to really kind of do them in size about 6 all the way up to I'll throw them in size 1 or 2 or even up into 1/0, 2/0. It's a really easy pattern to just dial into a bunch of different sizes. So this is a size 4. This is a straight eye streamer hook. This happens to be an MFC, a Montana Fly Company hook, similar to a Daiichi. And you can cater this however you'd like as far as hook that you want on here. I oftentimes will do these on a much stouter hook if I'm going for a much heavier fish. Also, if I've got some customers that want to take these to even some salt stuff or some coastal waters. So we're going to start out with some 140 denier white Vivas thread. I'm just going to lay down a little bit of a body here and go back towards where the barb is. And what I really like about this pattern is the variegated colors that I get out of it. Okay, so we're going to start out with some plain bleached white marabou. And what I'm looking for in these is just something that's going to swim really, really nicely. So very different than, say, buggerboo that we might be looking at for a different pattern. That's not what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for something that's wispy, something that's going to move in the water, that's going to change directions when I change the direction of the fly. So I'm wanting something that's very wispy, very similar to something that I would wrap around the hook on any of my flies. So a nice thin stem, something that's going to move in the water. Okay, and then what I do is I just take this and I pop the tip. So that tip is a weak spot, and it also will just kind of get in the way for me. I'm going to comb these fibers back and pinch, and I want this to be just a little bit longer than shank length on here. And I'm going to take my bobbin, I'm going to capture that at the back side here. A couple real nice tight wraps on there. Okay, and then I'm going to pick up my butt ends, and I'm going to wrap forward. Now this is a couple fold. Number 1, it's a whole lot easier to handle. Number 2, it helps me keep a nice smooth underbody that I can wrap over the top of with any of my materials. Okay, so I'm going to take this on. To clip this, I just spin into my fingers. Makes it a nice, easy clip-off point. Just a little bit of a trick for you guys to get a nice, clean clip-off point. Okay, so we've got some white there. I'm going to do the exact same thing with an iron dun color. So this is kind of a blue-gray coloration to it. I like having a little bit of blue in my baitfish. I think that it really looks nice in the water, and this blue-gray kind of just blends everything together a little bit. So same thing, I want those nice wispy tips on there. I'm going to go ahead and pop the tip, okay? And then I'm going to take some of this real fluffy stuff down here at the bottom. I just get it out of the way so I don't accidentally trap it with any of my wraps here. I'm going to put this forward, and then you can either wet this or do it dry, but I just want those tips to be exactly perfect in line so I have a nice clean tail. Same thing I did before. I'm going to capture this with a couple nice tight wraps. I'm going to lift up my butt ends. I'm going to wrap forward to the same spot that I had the other marabou plume. I'm going to capture that, start to wrap back on top of this. Okay, and take this and I'm just going to twist it in my fingers. Gives me a nice clean tie-off point or clip-off point. And you can see that helps me maintain a nice clean underbody. And then that's nice and smooth that I can wrap my material over the top of. But what I like is the fact that I have some darker gray on top of here with some white in the underbelly here that allows me to just have a little bit of a two-tone, but it bleeds together really nicely. Looks nice and natural. One of my favorite flashes is lateral scale. Lateral scale comes in a couple different sizes. This happens to be the smallest version of the lateral scale. I think it does a great job of just adding some flash when I'm stripping this fly and changing it directions. So I'm going to take 4 pieces on here, and I'm going to fold it around the back side of my thread, and I'm going to capture that together in front. I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it on my side right here. I'm going to comb those backwards, and then I'm going to wrap these forward a couple wraps, pull them to the far side of the hook, and capture them and put them as a lateral line in that tail. Okay, I can then take those, and I like to trim them just a tad bit longer than the tail on these. And when that gets wet, we've got a really nice lateral line. If these ever get any kind of squirrely on them, just give them a little bit of a stretch, and they will start to behave a little bit better for you. But as soon as these get wet and you start to swim, you'll have no problem. All right, our chenille on here is going to be a polar chenille, and the polar chenille is going to be the medium size. So it's a smaller version of the larger polar chenille that we're used to tying for larger streamers on here. This just happens to be the medium size. If you don't have the medium size, that's all right. You can just tie it in full length and then clip it, and it makes it nice and easy to get a shorter version of it. So I'm just going to tie this in, and I'm going to wrap it forward, and we're just creating a little bit of a body, just some scales, some body parts in here, a little bit of profile. We're just wanting to kind of fill some space in here, and the thing I like about this is it stays nice and light. This is not a heavy pattern. This is a very light pattern. This is meant to fish primarily on an intermediate sink line. That's by far my favorite line to fish for warm water and for cold water, that is, just because I can monitor how fast this fly will sink in the water. An intermediate sink is just by far my top choice on this. If you need to get it down and get it on a sink tip, you definitely can, but I prefer to swim these on an intermediate sink and fish them unweighted. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is put a little bit of a collar on here, and that's where our whiting American saddle comes into play. And what I'm looking for, and I absolutely love these American saddles. If you heard me tie or watch me tie last time, you know that I used a lot of the American saddle. Just absolutely love this product. Got a large variety of different types of feathers on here. What I'm looking for is back here in the back side where we get some of those schlappen feathers. The difference between the schlappen feathers on here and the American saddle that you get on here is that they just got a little bit stiffer fiber to them. They're a little bit more rigid. Originally, I tied this pattern with some guinea, but I really have switched most of my stuff over to this American saddle and used it in a wet fly collar style of tying here. So I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to, what I did was I clipped off the top, the tip of this, and I've just got a little tie-in point here. So if I pull this forward and I just clip off the tip, then I can use that to tie in. What we're doing here is we're just making a little bit of profile. Okay, I like to use hackle feathers for some profile in the fly. Also gives me a little bit of variegated color going back into the body. Get some fins moving. Get some things looking like they're fluttering. Okay, so I'm going to take this this American saddle, and I'm just going to kind of fold it over and roll it in between my fingers, as if I was doing kind of a steelhead collar. And I'm going to just put a little bit of a collar here on the front with this American saddle. And depending on how much water you want this to absorb, as far as when you strip it, how much you want this to flare, is how many wraps you want to put on here. I don't like it to cover up too much. I just want it to kind of give a little bit of a ramp for our last couple materials here. Using materials to hold up other materials. Okay, so we've got a nice little collar. Got some sparkle that's gonna go through that, and as we fish it and the water moves that around, you'll see some nice flash come through that natural material. We're gonna go back to our iron dun color, and this is where this ramp is gonna have a little bit of motion added to it. We're going to take, again, we're wanting the wispy fibers, but at the same time, we don't want something real long. Okay, if you can find in the bigger sizes, I'll just wrap this last material. I'll show you a little trick here on the smaller size to make sure that your hackle tips, your marabou fibers aren't longer than your actual fly. Makes a great little swing fly actually as well, and I will make them a little bit longer on those just so I get some added motion to it. Okay, but I'm going to strip off the bottom here where all the fluff is, and I want those nice wispy tips on here. Once again, I'm going to pop the tip. Okay, if you're doing it this way, if you're wrapping it, obviously save the tip and tie it in. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and where that tip was at, now I have a V. Okay, and that V is going to go right in. Let me see if I can get a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so that V is going to go right over the top of this fly here. Okay, and now I can control how long I want this to be. So if I have this going about halfway into the tail, that's the ideal location. It's kind of about half to 3/4 into the tail. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hackle fiber and I'm going to take kind of a triangle pinch, if you're familiar with that. But I'm going to pinch this around so that I kind of disperse it all the way around the streamer. I'm just going to take a loose wrap with the thread, and it'll actually distribute that hackle or that marabou all the way around, and it looks like you then have wrapped that marabou all the way around there. Okay, it just allows you to kind of control the length a little bit. I'm going to take this, I'm going to spin it in my fingers, clip it off, and then I've got some nice marabou fibers that are going to extend all the way around the fly 360 degrees, and allows for a lot of undulating and movement in the water without a lot of weight. Okay, we're going to go back to our flash here. I'm going to grab 2 pieces. I'm going to take these 2 pieces and I'm going to put one on, or halfway on one side. I'm going to pull them over, tie them halfway on the other side, and that gives us a little bit of lateral line that's actually going to bleed into the other lateral line. Gives us a little bit of connection between the front of this fly and the back of this fly. The front of this fly, now this is a good spot if you wanted to put a little red in here, if you want to put some gill colors, you want to throw some whiting guinea in there, or a little bit of whiting American rooster in red. This would be a great place to go ahead and add that to that. We're just going to keep this in the standard silver and gray, but we're going to add a little bit of blue in here. Okay, these are crusher legs, Chacon's barred regular crusher legs in a blue and clear. And what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 pieces here. I really like these. They're not real in your face. They're a little subtle with the clear, but you get a little flash of blue in there, and I think that's a real effective for a bait fish. So I'm going to take them, tie them in at the halfway point. I'm going to capture those on both sides so I have some nice legs on there. Okay, and then I'm gonna cut them about 3/4 the length. Okay, I want these to splay out just a little bit. Kind of uses that ramp that we had as the from the hackle. Okay, gets them to splay out just a little bit here. I don't know if that's gonna show up with my blue shirt behind it, but there's a nice blue coloration to it. Okay, and then this is how I do my heads. I really enjoy using these Flyman fishing masks. If you like that, or you want to use your own, this is I do it the same way if I'm using a mask or if I'm building my own resin head. It just either use the mask or don't use the mask. So I'm going to take some ice dub, and this is just an ice dub pearl, and I'm going to make a real thick dubbing noodle. And I'm going to create a little ball. Now, the size of this ball that I am looking for is the same size as the interior of the head. That's what I'm using. So this is a 6 on the head, and I'm trying to capture the inside of this head as the size of dubbing. Okay, so I need just a tad bit more on here. It's important that you have enough that the head can seat on here, but not too much to where it's going to push the head forward. And this is where it's kind of fun. You can do all kinds of cool colors on this. If you've seen any of my pike or musky flies that I tie, I really like to use a neat, bright color underneath that matches whatever the body color is that we're using. And as soon as you put these heads on and you hit it with a little bit of resin, these things just light up. So it's a really neat way to finish these heads off. So once again, these are Flyman Fishing Company heads. I've got that ball on there to where it's about the same size as that mask. It's not going to push the mask off, and it's not wiggling on there or anything. And I'm going to take some resin in the thin. And you can use super glue on this as well if you'd rather not use the resin. And I'm just going to take it. And I'm just going to saturate that ice dub. Now the cool thing that this resin does with the ice dub is that it just kind of magnifies it, makes it pop. And it doesn't cure until you hit it. So I can take this mask and I put it on there, and you'll see this squeeze out just a little bit on the front side here. And I'm not going to cure it yet. I'm going to put my thread back on and create that little thread dam on there. You can do that in white or in red. Okay? And then I'm going to throw a whip finish on there, and what you'll notice is that resin starts to seep out into those thread wraps without me having to do anything, and cures those thread wraps without having to apply anything. Okay, it does seep into the eye a little bit, so I'll just take my bodkin, put it in there. I want to make sure and look on all sides, make sure that it's straight, make sure that it's pushed back a little bit, and then I'm going to take it and I'm just going to hit it with the light. Now, being that it's a little bit thicker of a resin underneath there, there's quite a bit under there. You just want to make sure that you're hitting it enough that it's going to cure everything. If you want, you can set these out in the sunlight and really make them cure long. Okay? And then we'll put some eyes on here. Okay? So I'm going to take just a little bit of super glue on here. Put it on where the pupil of both eyes are going to be. And I'm going to take some Flyman Fishing Company. These are 4mm eyes in an ice. And I'm going to take them and I'm just going to put them on there on both sides. And then I'm just going to give them a couple little squeezes. Stick them to my finger, apparently. Okay. And you got a nice bait fish in there. So if you want to, you can put a little bit of resin in the eye holes and really cure them up. I think it's a great idea to let them last a little bit longer. But if an eyeball pops off or something throughout the day, I just take them back home, glue another eyeball on, no problem at all. So I do these in a lot of different colors. I would say this little white and gray coloration is by far my most fished, just because it does a great job of imitating a lot of natural forage. Everything small is kind of that white and grayish, maybe white and olive. I'll carry them in a white and olive, a white and gray, some darker colors. I also do them for trout in a couple kind of trouty colors that are maybe some tan and gold. As well as some olive, kind of just something to mimic a small rainbow trout, or a fingerling rainbow or fingerling brown. But those fathead minnows and those gizzard shad and some of those other things, you can tailor these really easily to whatever you'd like to match your forage. So fun little one. That's called a silver streaker. Great little pattern, lots of fun to fish. Bass just hammer it. So yeah, just a fun overall pattern on there. So let's see what we got. Any questions we got in here? Yeah, Daniel, you always do a little blue in yours as well. That's a great thing. I put blue in my baitfish and blue in my crayfish. So those things are Um, yeah, we have a lot of blue in our crayfish around here as well, and so I put those in there as well. So yeah, great little fly, a lot of fun. So another great little fly that we have is this is a newer fly. It's one that I've been fishing for a little while now, and it's a lights out little baitfish pattern. When they're wanting something just a little bit more flashy, maybe we have some off-colored water. Something they're not particularly shy by any means when they're crashing baitfish or even just fingerling fish. Or I do this this is called the iced up baby. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook or watching the YouTube stuff, you may have seen this fly. It's a fun little fly. It's been real popular. It's got a little bit of flash on it, and just a fun bladed kind of bait fish to really move and walk the dog on and make sure that this thing hunts. So does real well in our waters here in Colorado, especially some of the ponds that maybe I know that there's a smaller population of bass. Both in the fact that smaller bass will take it, but also bigger bass eating smaller bass. So I'll do this in a baby rainbow trout, a baby brown trout, a baby bass, and then a baby minnow as well. So, but really easy to cater to a lot of different colorations. So same hook on here. If you want to switch to a stinger hook, you definitely can. I carry both of those in there. Again, another unweighted bait fish pattern, something that I carry a lot of. I don't like to weight my bait fish pattern. I'd rather use the weight of the line to achieve depth rather than the weight of the fly. The fly, if I'm wanting that serpentine action, I'll put a little weight on there, or want to have a jig on there. But most of my bait fish patterns and most of my streamers in general are going to be fairly weightless or neutrally buoyant. So one of my favorite materials that is, I guess, fairly new is the whiting freshwater streamer capes. These are awesome, and it doesn't surprise me that I like these because they're kind of a smaller version of the American saddle and American cape, the rooster line. So being that I'm in Colorado, this is a great product for me to tie from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select two matched hackles, one from each side of the cape here, and I'm going to match them and pair them up as tails. Okay, so this is meant to be a fly that really slim in profile as far as back and forth. It's got a good profile vertically, but this is kind of meant to be that little bit of a blade that kind of comes through the water. It's got a lot of kick at the end of your strip on this, so you can strip it nice and hard on it, and it's going to make sure that to kick at the end. So what I'm looking for here is I've picked one feather off of one side, and I'm looking for a feather that's going to match the profile in the tip and make it as close as I possibly can to being identical feathers from two sides of the cape. Okay, so I'm going to take two of them here, and I'm going to put them inside to inside. Okay, so they're not cupping together, they're cupping against each other. So kind of like this. All right, I'm going to take these and I'm going to line up the tips on here, and then I'm going to measure these. Okay, so I want these to be just about a shank length long and a little bit, about a shank and a quarter long. So I'm going to cut these at a shank and a half in length. Okay, so I end up with just the hackle tips here. Now the thing I like about this, you got a nice rounded tip to it. You've got some nice webbiness that's near the stem, and also just the broadness of this feather I really like. I also really like that the barring on it is a little bit more subtle. It's not a black and white just stripe on it. It kind of fades into the color, gives that kind of illusion of movement to the fly. And I'm going to put those right on top. Okay? And this is the time that you want to take the time to make sure that they are straight, make sure that they are they're paired together, that they're not going to come apart. And you want to make sure that they're in the right place, because this is the time where It's the point of no return, so you can't come back and fix them later. And as much as you want to try to move them and things like that, this is the time to just make sure you do it right on the first time here. If you want to put a couple little drops of glue on there to make sure that they never come out or anything, that's go for it. Next feather I'm going to look for is I'm going to look for something a little bit higher up on the cape. I'm looking for something that's kind of towards the top here, where right before it gets to anything real small. Okay, so looking on here, I'm going to take the tip of this and I'm going to tie it in by the tip. Oh, I caught my thread. Here's a little trick for you. If you take it, make a dubbing loop, and just wrap over the top of this. Now you can cut that frayed piece of thread off, and you're back tying. You don't have to cut off, whip finish, whatever, or hope it doesn't break. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm just going to tie it in by the tip. I'm going to leave that out on the backside. We're making the little baby rainbow trout on this one. This has been a real effective color. We're going to go to some ice dub. Majority of this fly is made from feathers and ice dub. So the ice dub baby comes by its name. So this is a hot pink, a UV hot pink. I do this in a hot pink, and I also do it in the lighter pink color as well, the UV light pink. Depends on how prominent that coloration or how much they need to elicit a strike. Sometimes I'll do it in red. Sometimes I'll do it just with an olive or a white, kind of a pearl on there, where I don't have the stripe, but I like having this hot pink on here. I'm going to take this and I'm going to dub the body here. What I'm doing is I want to build a little bit of a taper as I go up. It's a very simple fly. Really enjoy fishing these things. We have a little pond just not too far from our house that we get to frequent the boat on before it actually gets crazy, covered in weeds and algae and all kinds of stuff. But right before that, there's these little channels that we were fishing these little channels where the baitfish would come down and these bass would crash them from outside the weed beds, and just throw those things in there and just strip them along, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm going to take this and I am just going to create some profile here. Okay, I'm going to take this and I'm just going to palmer it forward. And then at the front here, I'm just going to give one extra wrap. It's a very woolly bugger style almost. We've got a nice hackle that's going to create some movement and tickle those lateral lines a little bit. But now we want to get the head on here. Now the head is made entirely of different colors of ice dub that is stacked and blended through to make a really nice head for this. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of ice dub pearl. Kind of has that greenish hue to it. Works really well for the belly of a rainbow trout with that little greenish hue to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stack this. Okay, so I'm going to take it and I'm just going to pull it end by end and set it on top of each other so that all of the fibers become parallel to each other. And I know that I have all of the longest fibers, and I can take it and I can pull it, and it's not going to come out before it breaks. Okay, and if you have any real little pieces off to the side that have been kind of tickled out, go ahead and take those away. Okay, I'm going to take it and I'm going to, what I'm looking for is this to be about the length of the hook. Okay, want this to be a belly that's going to go all the way down the body. So this is about 50-50 on this clump here. And so I'm going to capture it with a couple little wraps here, and then I can kind of maneuver it and finagle it to where I need it. So what I've done is I've spread it out just a little bit on the bottom here. Okay. And then I'm going to take it and I'm just going to leave that tied in at the halfway point. Okay. I'm going to go to an olive brown ice dub. And what I'm going to do is this one's a little shorter. Okay, so not all ice dub is created equally, apparently. You know, some of the colors, for some reason, the reds and the blues and sometimes I get packages of pearl that are really nice and long, and sometimes I save those off to the side for the bigger versions of these because I want that added length. And sometimes you get it and it's kind of curly like this. So what you can do is, you know that that's going to be a little bit more dense. So you want to use your fingers to kind of understand how much you have in your fingers when it's pinched down. Okay, and so what I'm doing is I'm just stacking this, and the curlier it is, the longer it seems to take to stack this. So I'll stack a whole big pile of this, and then I'll have it for, you know, a dozen flies, and then I'll stack it all again. But really, all I'm doing is I just want this to be as parallel as I possibly can in the bundle. Okay, we got some small stuff off the side. Again, just get rid of that. Okay, same thing here. I'm going to make sure that my initial clump is the length of the body. Okay, now let's put some cheeks on this. This is where that stripe, I like to use, instead of the hot pink on this, I just use the standard, the little bit lighter pink on the cheeks. Just kind of helps blend that in a little bit. And this is where you can kind of get artistic with this. You can make it as complex or as simple as you want. The little minnow that I like to tie has some orange in the face. It's got a little bit of black towards kind of to imitate a spot. You can get as elaborate with this as you want. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've got a bundle here that's stacked. Okay, and if it's the same amount that I would have on the top and the bottom, I'm going to split this into 2 clumps and put it on either side of the face. And then I'm just going to capture that, make sure that it's down here by the face. Okay, now all of these wraps have kind of become loose, so and then that's why I do only 1 wrap or 2 wraps on each one. I can just kind of tighten those up by pulling them and tighten those all the way around there. And then what I can do is just fold these back and expose that hook eye and progress my thread to the top. Now it's kind of a jumbled mess right now before we comb it out, and that's okay. All right, we're going to take the last color. I like to put a little bit of darker color on the head, either a dark olive, or what I like to do is this peacock dubbing. Again, that peacock dubbing seems to be a little longer, so I can put a little bit of a veil on here. I'm just going to stack this real quick. Okay, get rid of some of the small fibers. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to make it, this is where I'm not going to spread it out at all. I'm just going to put it right here on the top. I'm going to capture it. I'm going to pull this back right on top of the fly. I'm going to throw a whip finish in there. Clip that off. And then I prefer to have a little dog brush like this. It's a slicker brush. You can get it at King Soopers or or whatever, whatever your local pet store or grocery store, and I'm just going to kind of untangle any of this. Okay, you can go forward, get anything that didn't get tied down if you need, but you'll notice that not much of this comes out if you've stacked it appropriately. Okay, so now I can take it and I can start to pull it back, make it into that kind of baitfish shape here. But you notice I have all these little straggles here on the front. If you take a lighter and you hit the lighter and you just go quickly across the front of that, it'll get rid of those little stragglers, and now you see I don't have any. I got a little bit down here on the bottom, but it'll just clean up the head. Fish probably don't matter one bit, but I have more confidence in what I'm fishing on it. Okay. All right, so the last portion of this is I'm just going to take and I'm going to squeeze the center here to just make a kind of a wedge there. And I'm going to take some super glue, and I'm just going to saturate the cheek right here where I'm going to put my eyes. Eyes are going to be 4mm ice eyes from Flyman. I like these for most of my flies. I just like a silver holographic kind of, well, I guess not holographic, it's more natural, but a silver eye is what I prefer. Okay, it's the same thing on this side. Okay, and these are fairly flat eyes. I've seen some packages that come in and they're pretty domed, but these are fairly flat. And we'll let those cure for just a second here. And we'll go to the last portion here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the profile or the shape of the head that I want here. And I'm going to take and I'm just going to collect all of these, and I'm going to pull them back and just take a little bit of resin here and put it right in between the eyes and right over the top, the edge of the eye, and coat in between the eyes. Okay, and now I can adjust how much of the profile I want. So if I want it to be real slicked back like this and be more of a darter, I can do that, and as soon as I hit it, it'll hold. Okay. Now on the bottom, I want to mimic that shape. Okay. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to pull it back or push it forward until it matches what the top looks like. Okay. And then what I can do is I can just take and coat those eyes just a little bit so that I have connection in between those two overhangs with the resin. Tease it out just a little bit, but it's a great little just immature baitfish, small minnow pattern, small fingerling rainbow. I'll carry them in a number of different sizes and color combinations, but it's just a fun little pattern. Fish just absolutely slam it, and it's, like I said, you can cater it to whatever forage you have in your individual waters. That's what's so great about it. Ice Dub comes in a ton of different colors, but overall, it's just a fun little pattern. Those American Saddle or the freshwater streamer capes are awesome. You can get a ton of flies out of these. Use them for the the tail and the body, and so yeah, just a fun little pattern, and really easy. Not very many materials, so. All right. Let's see if we have any questions on here. Glad to see so many people on here. I appreciate y'all coming out. Yeah, Norman, the freshwater streamer capes are absolute money. They're just great. Phil, thank you. Greg Mills, good to see you. All right. Yeah, the ice dub does make a great belly for a baitfish. Um, so just some great things in there. This pink stripe definitely a great thing to have on there. I like that it's internal on the pink stripe. I don't like necessarily having a real bright pink stripe. And there's times for it for sure, but the pink stripe internal, so it kind of glows through. It's a fun little pattern. So, um, Daniel, you love your comments. That's awesome. So, um, alrighty. Hey, we're gonna go to a little bit of a bigger bait fish before we head to our last pattern here. This is the pseudo secret. This is one that has been a staple in my warm water box for a long time, and I absolutely just love it. It takes from a couple different patterns and has some great motion to it. Just an all-around great profiled streamer pattern. Little bit bigger hook on here for what I tie. I'll do them in ones all the way to, this is a 3/0. But I throw them for a lot of different species, and so I like to have a good stout hook on it. This is a B10S, a Gamakatsu B10S, and we're just going to be using some 140 denier thread. This is meant to be a little bit bigger of a fish, something that's a little bit more substantial of a meal, something that's but yeah, I've never ceases to amaze me how small a fish can come up and smack such a big streamer. And I think that's what's so cool about both warm water and just predatory fish in general is how aggressive they can be. So it's a lot of fun to see this streamer go just disappear. We've had some awesome days just suspending this and giving it some little twitches above some vegetation. I have a couple places that I fish that have some sunken vegetation that those bass like to hide in, and I'll take this in a number of different colors. We're going to do the white and blue color today just because that's what I have sitting here, and it's one of my favorite colors, definitely for wiper too. But it's a fun little pattern to just kind of give some real quick hits and let it kind of just struggle above that vegetation and just see that mouth come out and just slam this. So this is Flash and Slinky. It's a crinkly material with some flash in it. Thing I like about this is that no matter what color you buy this Flash and Slinky, the flash is actually dyed to the same color as the Slinky, the whatever you want to call it. But it's to give some great profile to it. It's got some great flash in there that's got some texture to it. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this and I'm going to cut it off. And what I'm going to do right off the bat is just taper it to where it's not cut, so that I have some nice taper to the bait fish here off the back end, so that it's not just cut blunt. So what I did was I pulled the back ends so that I have some that are longer, some that are shorter than the others. Gives me a little bit of a tapered profile. What I'm looking to do on this is I want it to be about 2 shank lengths long. That's a good length for what I'm doing on this. And what I'm going to do before I tie this in, I'm just going to put a little bit of super glue right here on the tie-in point, just a little bit of added security, and then I'm going to spin my bobbin, make sure that I have some nice binding wraps in here. It's really easy to go overboard with this stuff. You don't need as much as you think you do. It holds a great profile in the water, especially with the fact that it comes out really not holding a lot of water. Okay, so I'm gonna tie this in, and then I'm going to create a little band of thread here, and I'm gonna bring my thread back and fold this over and capture it. Okay, and then what I can do is I can just kind of follow that shape. And give a little bit more of a butt end here to just, it allows that to stay a nice butt section here, and allow this to just move and flip and all kinds of stuff in here. So great little material on the back here. Okay, looks like we're a little close in, but we should be able to see the main part of this. This is ice wing fiber, and the ice wing fiber is a nice flash on here. I wonder if I can. I've got a little bit of a lag in here for the live stream, but let's see if I can back this out just a little bit so we can see a little better. I'll have to refocus here. There we go. That'll help us get a little better view on this streamer, and then we'll change it up when we get back to the smaller one. Okay, so ice wing fiber. Ice wing fiber is a great material for long ice dub applications. Okay, so what I do on this is I just pull it and let it kind of come out a little bit. This is the smolt, the pearl smolt. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm just grabbing the fibers at full length. So these are fairly long fibers. Okay, it's a great material. It's got some really cool looking colors and some neat stuff in the water when it gets wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and just kind of stack it just a little bit. It's a little hard to really manipulate this stuff, which is why if I just take it and I pull it out of the bag, a lot of times it's similar length throughout. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it about 60-40. So I'm having it a little longer than the tail, and I'm going to take my thumbnail and I'm just going to roll it here so it spreads out. Okay, and I'm going to capture that so that I get a little veil of color on the top side of this tail. If it's a little longer, just break it off. Okay, and then I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it back over on itself, and you get a nice clear translucent tail on here with some color and some shine on the back of the minnow. Okay, just helps to give a little bit of color splash and tie everything together in here. Okay, so all right, let's get a little bit of bucktail here. But before we do that, I'm going to put my lateral line. These are whiting bugger packs. Absolutely love these whiting bugger packs for this fly. Lateral lines are a real important part in my designs and my flies. And these bugger packs are perfect as far as the width of the feather and the length of the feather. It allows me to have a lot of different options as far as colors. I do this in a rainbow trout version. I use the pink again. Works really well with that. But I'm looking for something that's long but doesn't get super wide. Okay, so you can use the American saddle or the freshwater streamer, but I really like these bugger packs for these lateral line applications on here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a grizzly bugger pack, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it right on the side here. Okay, and I'll put one on my near side. And it's taking that translucency and adding a little bit of barring to it. Just makes a really neat looking fly in the water. Okay, and then I'll tie these. Make sure we got them all in the right spot here. Tie these down the shank just so they're nice and secure. Okay, and if you want, always make it more durable. These take a little bit of time to tie, so I just take a little bit of super glue, put them on the stems, make sure that we're in a nice locked up situation here. Okay, let that seep in. Alrighty, we'll take some bucktail here, and when I'm looking for bucktail, it really depends on the size of the fly that I'm tying here. But I want something that's it's gonna flare a little bit. This is called the pseudo secret, and kind of the secret underneath the pseudo hair is bucktail. Okay, so I usually take kind of the middle sections, kind of that prime section of the bucktail, gets a little bit of flare. I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna kind of come up here to the front just a little bit. And I'm going to take a little bit of this bucktail and put a little bit of a prop underneath my head material, which is pseudo hair. Okay, so I'm going to take my bucktail, I'm going to take it and I'm just going to pull all the small fibers out. Clean all this bucktail out so that I have the nice long fibers in here. Okay, and I'm going to pull this bucktail to a spot. I'm going to spin my bobbin. That is about halfway into the tail on this one. Okay, I'm going to take it and I'm going to not looking for a ton of flare on this one. You can see how it props up on top of the tail. Take the same thing, another clump of bucktail. I'm going to put it on the bottom side. I'm going to measure it to the same length as the other one that I did. I'm going to cut this one. Okay, I'm going to do a nice secure wrap. Stretch that thread. It's important to know breaking points of your thread, so you know exactly how much you can stretch this thing before it's going to break. You want it to be right at that breaking point. Okay, we'll do one clump there, and then I'm going to go to something with just a little bit more flare to it for the front section here. Because I want this to push up the pseudo hair in the front, so I'm going to go a little lower down the tail towards the base where you got some little bit more hollow fibers. A great little wiper fly. Okay, we'll put this down here. Stretch that out. Okay, so we got a little bit of bucktail here at the front. Okay, we'll get some nice, oh, broke my thread. Sorry about the squeaky bobbin too. All right, so here in the front, we got a nice profile for this, kind of deceiver-esque. We're going to take a little bit of pseudo hair. Now, I absolutely love pseudo hair. You know, I use a lot of for my Darth Invaders and Sculpt Gulps, which I'm going to tie here in a second. But I use a lot of pseudo hair. Now, the thing I like about pseudo hair that's different than a lot of the other products on the market is the amount of taper that you can get from the actual underfur of this. Okay, using it, it's also a tapered end instead of a cut end. You get a nice, I think, a much nicer looking bug using pseudo hair than you do any other product. I also like how it wicks water. I just like everything about it. It's easy to work with. It's more like a synthetic fox than anything else. So we're going to take some white and some Kingfisher blue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my comb here, and I'm just going to comb this out so that it's all straight and go in the same direction. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit of it here and comb it down the other direction. What I'm going to do is I'm taking about, these are 4-inch scissors. I'm taking about 4 inches worth of pseudo hair. And what I'm doing is I'm taking it into a little clump here. Okay. Now, just like any hair or fur, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab here at the front, pull, so that I get that underfur out on this fly. Okay. I'm not taking everything out, just about the stuff that's about halfway. Okay, I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to let those butt sections be a little bit on top of those, just a little bit on top of the bucktail. Okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to use my thumb and kind of even it out just a little bit, make it not just a clump on there. And take the same thing on the pseudo hair in the Kingfisher blue. Okay, same thing. I'm going to grab about halfway into the clump. I'm going to pull all the real short fibers out. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit too much of it. I'm going to make a little bit of an overhang. I'm going to capture that. I'm going to pinch right here at the side here so that they don't move or roll on me. And I'm going to create just a little band of thread. Okay. Now I can go ahead and throw a whip finish or a half hitch on there just to save the work for the, just want to make sure that those thread wraps stay tight. I'm going to take the blue, I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to cut these just a little bit back. I went a little too long on them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I'm going to pull them backwards like you would on a reverse tie deceiver. Okay. And you want to make sure that your thread is at a spot where you can capture all of those. I'm going to take them, I'm just going to hold them. I'm going to capture just a couple wraps right on top of there. Throw a whip finish in on there. And then I can go in here and I can start to just comb everything backwards. Okay, we'll get some eyes. On these, I really like big fish eyes, super pearl on the blue. These are 3/8. Okay, and on here, what we want to do is just take, I'm going to take the blue Loctite. Got a brand new bottle here. Okay, I'm going to take the blue Loctite. I'm going to take the eye. And I'm going to make this flat and put it right over the top of those thread wraps. Do the other side. Okay. And then I'm going to pinch them together so that they really bind into each other. Okay. And just like with the iced up baby, you can decide how much profile you want on this just by how you finish the fly. Okay. So on this, what I'll do is I'll take some of this UV resin and I'm just going to fill in right in between the eyes. Okay. And I can pick how much flare I want on these. You just want to make sure you fill all the space in there. You can use a thicker resin if you want. Same thing here. I just want to mirror whatever the top is. And then I'll go and I'll surround the eyes with the resin. Keep it spinning, not let anything drip. And all those little any stragglers out there you can hit with the flame. You can do it beforehand; it works a lot better. But that's the pseudo secret. That's been a really great little bait fish fly. Lots of swim in the water. Those bugger pack spots really give a nice lateral line to it. You can throw them in a lot of different colors. I really like this white and blue. I'll do it in white and chartreuse. I'll do it in white and red, olive and yellow. You name it. Anything you can throw a big bait fish on, I throw this thing. So it's a great little pattern. You can put it. I do them in kind of this full size, and then I do it in a mini size as well for some of the smaller shad and smaller bait fish that we have in our waters here. And I fish both of them hard and absolutely love this pattern. So That's the pseudo secret. You can put, you know, you want to put a dot on there for a shed, or you want to color some of this. Pseudo hair takes markers really nice and well. So it's a fun little pattern. So, all right, let's see if we have any questions before we go to our last pattern here. Daniel, the size hook, this one was a 3/0. I tie them anywhere from size 1, even size 2, all the way up to, I mean, I've tied them on 6/0, but I like 3/0 and 1/0, and then size 1. Kings in the salt, absolutely. Yeah, so lots of options in here, lots of cool colors on this. Just a fun little pattern to tie. So, okay, last pattern in here. This is, if I had to go to the water with one pattern, this would hands down be it. I tie the scope gulp in a lot of different pattern colors and combinations. I probably caught more fish on this pattern than just about any pattern in my box, probably because I also I fish it a lot. So it's a great little pattern for both bass and trout. We're going to do a little bluegill kind of sunfish, fire perch-ish coloration here. And it's just a fun overall pattern. So let me get a hook in the vise here. I'll start out with let's do a Gamakatsu B10S size 1. I really like this size for the majority of the warm water baitfish that I throw for this one. We're gonna do grab some lead eyes. Lead eyes for some jig on here, but also just to kind of counterbalance a little bit and make this ride appropriately, and also just make sure that it is a little bit more buoyant than actually the weight that I need on it. How long is that fly that we did? Oh, I don't know, 4 inches. Here's a measuring tape. 5 inches right on the money. 5 inches right on the money on it. So, all right. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna start out with some olive thread. We're gonna do kind of a bluegill perch coloration on this. Do these with yellow eyes, with red eyes. Doesn't really matter, honestly. They pummel this thing regardless of it. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put just a little bit of weight on here. Alrighty. Take this thing all the way back to the end of the shank. We're gonna go with some marabou. This is Montana Fly Company Buggerboo in an olive and brown coloration. I'm going to take two pieces here. A nice full tail, especially bluegill and perch, a little bit robust of a body here. Okay, so I'm going to take this, make it just a tad bit longer than a shank length. Okay, we'll pick up our tag ends here. We'll make our body. All right. Next thing it's going to be is a American Rooster saddle in an orange. This is a grizzly orange color. I just want a little bit of orange coloration in here. Just helps to kind of give it that perchy goodness and a little bit of that red and or burnt orange on the bottom. Okay, we'll tie in an orange hackle here, and then I'm going to tie in some yellow UV polar chenille. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one wrap just to get this started on the hackle, and then I'm going to put that polar chenille inside of the hackle and wrap it at the same time. Okay, it gives a nice mixture of yellows and oranges. Okay, we can take that and kind of pick it out just a little bit. Make sure that we don't have anything trapped down. Okay, make sure that we don't have the tail trapped down at all with some of those fibers. I'm going to take one more piece of buggerboo, and I'm going to do what I usually do on this is pop the tip so it doesn't have to choose one side or the other. That way you have a kind of that V of marabou. Okay, and I'm just going to take this and I'm going to put it on the top and just about halfway into that tail. And then one thing I really like to do is take a little bit of whiting guinea and just put a little collar there on the front side. And I think it just adds a nice pop of red and gills and just a fun little color splash on the front. Okay, and I'm just going to give just a little bit of color. One wrap. I don't know about you, but my fish don't have gills on the top. I'm going to trim that out so I just get a kind of a beard on there. You can tie it in traditional beard style if you want it as well. We'll put some rubber legs in here. And sorry, I forgot them on the board. These are black barred olive rubber legs. I'm going to take 4 of them. I'm going to take them and I'm going to tie them in half on top, or half on this side, half on this side. Cut those a little bit short. Just give some gills or some fins and some stuff that's gonna move around nice and easily. Okay, I'm gonna take a dubbing loop. I'm gonna take this dubbing loop and I'm gonna close it off, and I'm gonna take my thread to the front. I'm gonna take my dubbing twister here, and I'm going to open this up and stick half of it into my material clip so it's nice and open for me. I'm just going to leave that there and while I prep my pseudo hair. This is yellow pseudo hair. Okay, like I said, pseudo hair, I just love the fact that it's a tapered length to it. It transitions back into the body, gives a whole feeling to the fly It's also got a nice amount of under fur to it, and this is where this really comes into play, where you can't do this with craft fur. Or, I mean, you can, it just doesn't look as cleanly as this one does. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of yellow pseudo hair, and I've got it about the length of my fingers, okay? And then, like I said, I've got 4-inch scissors here, so about 4 inches worth of pseudo hair here, and I've got it full in the. I haven't taken anything out of the underfur. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into. I want to put this into the dubbing loop. Okay, and what I'm looking at is I want to spread this out nice and evenly. Got a little bit too much here. Okay, to where the butt ends are sticking out further on the upper side, and then tapered down to where they're barely sticking out here on the bottom of the loop. Okay, and what that does is it allows me to control the amount of underfur that is in the loop, because when I spin this up, the stuff up here, the small, the at the top of the loop, the underfur is going to comb out while it's going to retain down here at the bottom. Okay, so when I spin this up, got a rubber leg stuck in there. Okay, when I spin this up, I'm going to get a nice mess here. But when I take my comb, okay, and I'm going to comb it perpendicular to the loop all the way up and all the way back down, and then go up the loop, down the loop, and then really start going to it. Light fell down. Sorry about that, guys. And I'm really going to start going to it and make sure that nothing is down. Okay? So I'm essentially making a dubbing brush out of pseudo hair. But what you'll notice is as you start to wrap this, it's much thinner up here at the top and much thicker down here at the bottom, which allows me to create a bullet head style head to this. Okay? I'm going to lick my fingers. I'm going to pull this back into a one-sided chenille. Kind of roll into my fingers a little bit. And what you notice is the length of this pseudo hair coming out the side here. You don't just have the underfur. You don't just have a chenille. You have a material that is going to extend back to the tail and help bring this entire fly into profile and bring it together. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to start to wrap this. I'm just going to spin it as I move this forward. I'm going to spin it in my hands so that it continues to remain on my left. Okay. And when I get to about a ½ an inch left in here, I'm going to go through the eyes, around the eyes, and then when I come up the center, I'm going to make a little mohawk and pull it right through the center. Now this is one of the most durable flies that I carry in my box, because the only part that is really dangerous for catching a tooth is now protected by all of this head here. I'm going to capture that behind, pull it up, and I'm going to give some nice securing wraps on the front here. I can cut out my dubbing loop. Now it looks really messy and all kinds of messed up here. I'm going to throw a couple whip finishes in here. And I'm going to cut this off. Now I can really just go to town untangling this. So I'm going to come it forward. And then I'm going to comb it back. And what you'll notice is that it's nice and untangled, and you get a really nice bullet head baitfish style. Now, if you have any that are really too long, you can pull those out because they're probably not in the loop anyways. But you have a really nice bullet heads looking baitfish profile. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is turn it into a little perch or bluegill. So I'm going to take, these are chart pack markers. Okay, I'm going to take this chart pack marker. I'm going to take on the front here, and I'm going to get rid of all these little fibers because they'll get in the way. And those just cinch down nice and even to the fly. Okay, take a chart pack marker. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to color the top here olive. I want to blend those tips right in that marabou that we tied in. Okay, take that, and then we can take a little bit of brown. I can match that up with the stripes on the marabou. And then I can take, let me grab a black marker real quick, sorry. Yeah, we can take a black marker, and I can add some vertical bars here. Helps bring in those brown marks. And then what I like to do is just take a little bit, this is a pale sepia marker. I'm just going to add a little bit of kind of an orangish, tannish throat here. And if you want just a little bit of orange, you can get as colorful with this as you want. Or until the fumes of those chart pack markers get you to where you can't see what you're doing. But what you can see is that gives you a really nice imitative little perch, or you can do it as a bluegill. You don't have to make it as fancy as I did here. I fish them in straight colors lots throughout the year. Straight olive, straight black, straight white, white and gray, tan and gold for a little baby brown trout. I like this perch and bluegill coloration. This works really well. You know, a lot of the ponds and lakes around our area, especially if they have perch, but if they've got little bluegill and they're on the beds and those bass are crashing them, this thing has just been lights out. And like I said, if I had to pick one fly in a bunch of different colors to take to the water, this would definitely be it. One of my favorite patterns that I tie. This is the sculpt gulp, or the bearded sculpin, and it's just a fun little pattern. So I think that's it. I know we went a little bit longer. Hope that was okay. But these, yeah, these are great little fish patterns for you to tie up, or you're welcome to purchase from Rocky Mountain Fly Design, which is my company. As long as you're using Whiting Farms feathers, you can't go wrong. Sean, those markers are Copic markers and then chart pack markers. I really like the chart pack ones. I use the Copic markers, the Copic markers, because I like the shape of the tip on them, and just gives a nice pointed stripe when I use them. So yeah, if there's any questions, I'll hang around for a second. But yeah, I appreciate all of the support. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube and Instagram, and just make sure you keep supporting Whiting Farms. They are just such a wonderful company and just such wonderful people that work in there, and just can't thank them enough. So if I can help in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information is on the Whiting Farms Pro Team page. And I'll talk to you soon. I'll see you on the water.